Okay, before I get to the main point of the video, I just want to draw your attention to a page on Facebook that was actually highlighted by the group the British Muslims for Secular Democracy, which is a group that believes in secularism, and they have highlighted this group and called on us to report it. So I'll introduce the group and then say why I agree it should be reported. The group is called Lajme Islami, and that's Lajme-Islame. It shows a guy in a balaclava, the jihadist black flag in the background, and I'm not sure what language that is. Not sure if it's Arabic or another language, but it's quite clear looking at the sort of photographs they're posting what their agenda is. The first, or the most recent photograph, shows Capitol Hill in flames, bombs, and then jihadists coming from it waving their black flags and American flag flying away. There's a photo showing a map of Chechnya. There's a propaganda photo showing Gaza, which is something all Islamists use as propaganda. There's a post showing a picture of Boko Haram. Now, like I said, I should stress I don't know the language, but just scroll down these pictures and you'll get the picture. There is pictures of ISIS in combat. There's a picture of guys who look like recruits being interviewed without their masks. Just scroll down and you'll get a picture of what this is all about. This one is particularly revealing. There is a map of a large chunk of the world stretching from Indonesia to Morocco, covered in the black jihadist flag. So there's another picture of a UK Navy base in Bahrain, obviously a target for them. It goes on and on and on like that. This is I'm not suggesting this is an active terrorist cell, but quite clearly this is a group that is very much in favour of violent Islamism. So yeah, they should be reported. And this is where I want to lead to the main point of the video. I'll put a link, by the way, to that page so that you can report as well. And I urge you, please do. It's not harmless. This is precisely the sort of thing that young Muslims will come across, read, and become radicalized. This is dangerous. It needs to be reported. They do not deserve airtime or any sort of platform at all. Now, the main point I want to talk about in the video is about free speech, which of course directly relates to this. The thing about free speech is it has never, ever been about threatening speech, about advocating violence. The value of free speech as a principle of democratic societies has never enabled anyone to call for active violence. And if it has, then that sort of path of free speech has pretty fastly been denounced, because free speech doesn't include the right to advocate violence. Now, Islamists will say, oh, but you're saying we can't criticise America. Actually, no, I'm not saying that. I support anyone's right to criticise America, American foreign policy, Israeli foreign policy, British foreign policy. That's entirely a right. But there is a thin line between that and actively showing images that are clearly advocating violence. That is not satire. That is not satire. That is a clear advocation of violence. Because this is how Islamist groups work, and they will use sentimental connections, especially Gaza, as a recruiting tool. I mean, they will cry about the children in Gaza, but they will have no tears over the children in Peshawar. So, in fact, there was one post, I think, may have been from the same group, that even suggested the victims in Peshawar weren't innocent children because they were teenagers, as opposed to pre-pubescent children. So that shows the sort of mentality that we're dealing with. And this is very dangerous. So with the whole free speech thing, I've also seen this in other dimensions, not just in the Islamist thing. There are some extreme nationalists who also will use free speech as an excuse to advocate violence and hatred against a minority group. Or in some cases, I've noticed here in the West we sometimes are too tolerant. Now what I mean by that is, I made a video a while back, this is nothing to do with Islamism, but it's another form of extremism, where a group of Thai neo-royalists were attacking a critic of the monarchy here in Britain. And when I say attacking, I mean physically attacking, targeting her house and so on, and I made a passionate speech defending her and her right to say what she wants. So that shows a situation whereby freedom of speech comes under attack by extreme forces. Now what I said to those people and in the speech was they would have a right to disagree with her position. And any Muslim anywhere, or any person anywhere, has a right to disagree with American foreign policy and advocate alternative ways. But when you fly the black flag of Islam, call for jihad, and show images of well-known Western landmarks in flames, you're a bloody terrorist, as far as I'm concerned. So freedom of speech does not extend to... I mean, the irony is, these Islamists hate freedom of speech anyway, and given half a chance, they would absolutely crush it, because it is a form of fascism. So the whole free speech argument, this is what it comes down to. People should have the right to passionately disagree on any subject. Any subject. I do believe freedom of speech is absolute, insofar as people should have the right to talk about anything. But an active threat, advocating violence, goes beyond just talking, because that is an action, actually. It may be words, but it is an action insofar as what it is encouraging. Now, if I say I hate somebody, that might be unpleasant, but it's not a threat. If I say I hate this person, I'm going to kill them, then I couldn't complain if the police were to interview me, because they would have to take it seriously. They don't know if I'm just full of shit and I'm just bragging, or if I actually am an active threat. So there is a limit insofar as what you say. I would even say people have a right to be hateful. So I'm actually wary about laws that are, I mean, hate speech is something, especially in America, that's taken quite seriously. And it's not that I have any sympathy whatsoever for people who are racist or sexist or anything like that, but I just think it can be hard to really measure at times. I mean, most people hate something or someone on some level. There are people I hate. So if I was to make a video expressing why I dislike what they do, does that constitute a hate speech? The point I'm making is I don't know how you even regulate that, because this is the other extreme. You could get to a point where every sort of passionate disagreement is seen as a hate speech, or as a... It's just like the trolling thing, whereby people who disagree with a group are then accused of trolling. I just think it's hard to regulate those things, but it is not hard to regulate someone who's making an active threat. So, by the same token, if you have a white supremacist group that advocates violence against black people, yeah, then they should be targeted. If you have a black supremacist group that orchestrates violence against white people, they should be targeted. If you have an Islamist group that orchestrates violence against anyone, then they should be targeted. The point here is, anyone with a brain can see that when someone is advocating violence, it needs to be something that's taken seriously. It's different from losing your temper and say, I hate that person. Or if someone is maybe, I don't know, say you have... There has to be a common sense approach to this. Say someone, I don't know, they've lent their friend a DVD, and the friend accidentally damages the DVD, and the friend says, I'm going to kill him. Now, common sense shows that that is not literal, because how many times does that actually happen? However, when an Islamist issues threats, you know they're being serious. Or if they're not personally being serious in terms of them carrying out the attack, they're absolutely trying to brainwash young jihadists. So it is a legitimate threat. I think a certain amount of common sense has to be brought into this as well. I believe that freedom of expression is absolute, but absolute freedom of expression does not include the right to absolute advocacy of violence. It's not the same thing at all. Yes, it might just be words, but words are very powerful. I mean, look at the Ferguson situation, when the uncle of Michael Brown said, "Let's burn this bitch down." Now, that doesn't mean he was personally responsible for everything that happened, but he was inflaming an already tense situation. And there are many examples of that. So if you advocate violence, then that's what it is, an advocation of violence. And there is a specific agenda with that sort of comment, with that sort of statement. It's different from just being hateful. Being hateful is not, I'm not saying that's something to be promoted, of course not. But I think it's very human to be hateful. To hate something. And just for the record, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying it's a very normal, natural thing. Most people, if they're being honest with themselves, hate something. Okay, that's fine. But there is a line. Let me know your thoughts on this. When we talk about freedom of expression being absolute, do you agree with the line that I'm talking about? Active threats of violence? Or what do you think? Let me know. Cheers.